Joy. open to the joy, I'm open to the peace, and feeling all this bliss. I can have joy, I can feel. Let it take me there and bliss. Joy, peace, bliss. Joy, peace, bliss. Joy, peace, bliss. Joy, peace, bliss. Joy. Let your thoughts slow down and feel the bliss. Peace. Relax your body and feel all of this bliss. Joy, peace, bliss. Joy, peace, bliss. Joy. Relax your body now and feel bliss. Peace. Let each breath take you into the bliss. Joy, peace, bliss. Joy, peace, bliss. Joy, peace, bliss. Joy, peace, bliss.
Hello and happy Sunday, beautiful people. It is so wonderful to be here with each of you on this Sunday morning as we gather together to celebrate the magnificence and significance of the power and presence of God flowing in, through, and as us. Let us begin, as we always do, with prayer. And this morning, our prayer champion, Reverend Shauna, will lead us in prayer.
Good morning, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. Let's take a moment to settle in and breathe deeply. God is all around us. God is the infinite mind. God is the universe. God is the consciousness in and through everything. God is power. God is wisdom. God is compassion. And that God has made us one with it and with all humanity. God is at the highest mountain. God is in the deepest oceans. God is within each seed. And God is the one breathing and moving us. There is no spot where God is not. I believe that God has my back and wants the best for me. I have faith that God is protecting and guiding and uplifting you. I have experienced miracles in my life. I have come this far only with God's help. I am blessed and grateful that each one of us has a mother who gave us life and entrusted us to be one with God to live our greatest lives. God has never brought us this far to drop us. I affirm that we received God's love in our mother's womb, and we continue to receive that love from our grandmothers, our mothers, our aunties, our teachers, our ministers, our gurus, and the feminine energy pulsing through all people. Being loved and learning to love and value ourselves lets us bring love out into the world. From those closest to us, our partners, our children, and our families, to the co-workers, neighbors, and even those strangers we haven't encountered yet. The entire CSC experience this morning is to plug us into our oneness with God, into the magnificence of God in us and as us. As we worship today, we celebrate that. In prayer, we seek to know God and be changed. In meditation, we allow God to speak to us, affirming our perfect, whole, and complete selves. In music, we are encouraged, uplifted, and inspired. And in the talk, we learn practical spiritual tools to activate the God power in us and to go out living God in the world, in whatever circumstances and with everyone we encounter. I'm grateful and thankful that I embrace this service and will leave changed. I'm grateful and thankful that you embrace this service and will leave change. No more worry, doubt, or fear. We are freed to be who we were meant to be. I pray this morning for you and with you. I affirm health and healing, harmonious relationships, wisdom in making decisions, and prosperity in every single area of your life. I know God is good all the time. So let us begin this service knowing who and whose we are and giving thanks to all those who have mothered and nurtured and encouraged us. I release these words knowing that they are already done and decree amen, ashe, and so it is.
Yes, yes, yes. Amen, ashe, and so it is. Thank you, Reverend Shauna, for that powerful prayer, for grounding us in truth, for surrounding us in truth. I love everybody was included in the prayer. And so that is important. It's very important. And I'm grateful, of course, for the mother energy as we celebrate this day. Well, hello again. Happy Sunday. It is so good to be here with you all. It's so good to have you connected into this a live stream, and that is the weekend service of Celebration Spiritual Center. If you are a first-time guest, we want to say hello to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to stream in on this Sunday or whatever day or time you happen to find yourself watching this stream. As a first-time guest, we would love to stay in touch with you, but more importantly, we are confident that something will be said, something will be done that will empower your life, that will support you in having an empowered day and an empowered week and an empowered life, thriving. And so, as I said, we would love to stay in touch with you. The information you see here on your screen is how you access your digital connection card. Just text WELCOME to the number on your screen, 347-472-1078. Just the word WELCOME, no additional emojis, hellos, or signatures are needed, and you'll receive a reply with a link to the digital connection card. Tap that link, enter the information, the most important being your email address, submit that, and then you'll receive a text that says you're all set. And indeed, at that point, you are all set. You'll be on our mailing list. You'll receive our weekly email that goes out on Fridays and any other correspondence that is important related to CSC. So now is actually a wonderful time to get into our news and updates. We have a number of news and updates to move through today. And then we get to dig into the meditation, the music, and the message. Well, first, we would love to honor and send love to all mothers. We, with joy, say Happy Mother's Day. We also hold space and hold each and every one of you in our hearts who maybe feeling some joy in the memory, but also feeling some grief, also feeling some sadness. We know that this holiday can bring up a number of emotions for a number of different reasons. And so as we celebrate Mother's Day and as we say Happy Mother's Day, know that those of you who may be feeling something other than joy, we are holding you in our minds, we are holding you in our hearts, and we are knowing that God, as peace and love and ease and grace, is right there with you where you are, comforting you, holding you. For in truth, that is the only mother. Any expression of mother here on the earth is only an infinitesimal expression of the mother that God is. And so again, we say Happy Mother's Day. We are also in the month of May, which means this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we are being deliberate in bringing awareness and bringing our hearts and minds to the reality that we all need to be mindful of our mental health and being mindful and recognizing that we have the power to thrive together, supporting each other. We have the opportunity to end the stigma around mental health. And so in that spirit, we want to share some information that has been shared with us through the NYC Well program, because we can talk a lot about mental health, but it's important that we all know what we mean when we say that. Mm-hmm. And so what is mental illness, right? Mental illness refers to symptoms that affect our mental health and interfere with our ability to function. It disrupts our ability to work, carry out daily activities, and engage in healthy relationships. Mental illnesses take many forms. Some are mild and only interfere in limited ways with daily life. Others may require hospitalization. And so just when you hear that, you realize that at varying points in our life, we have experiences that disrupt our ability to work, disrupt our ability to carry out daily activities and engage in healthy relationships. And so it's true, mental illnesses take many forms. It does not mean that you may need medication. It does not mean that you may need hospitalization. But there's a recognition that all of us at varying points in our lives have mental health challenges, and that's normal. Mm-hmm. That's okay. That's why we say it's okay to be okay. And so,
to not be okay.
I mean, right. It's okay to not be okay. Thank you. And so, this is why I think it's really important to even just name this and understand what it is, because it helps us move out of the othering. Now, of course, one of the things that happens, there are so many myths and thoughts around mental illness and mental health, and we've recently seen that, fortunately, here in New York with the murder of Jordan Neely. And one of those myths that's shared that we need to understand, there's a myth that people with mental illnesses are violent. And this is being used in a lot of different ways. I think about the mass shootings where it's like, that's the cover. No, they were racist. Can we talk about that first before we hide behind, just, oh, well, they were mentally ill. And many times that they get off because of that. And so there's this prevailing myth that people with mental illnesses are violent. But the truth is, the fact is that only 3 to 5% of violent acts are actually committed by individuals with a serious mental illness. And the second part is more important. In fact, people with severe mental illnesses are 10 times more likely to be the victims of violence than the general population. And that's what we saw here with Jordan Neely and the murder of Jordan Neely. Jordan Neely was in crisis. This beloved soul needed support, needed love, had been identified as someone that needed support, but got lost in the system. That's the reality. And so, that myth leads to stigma, right? That myth leads to people thinking that they need to protect themselves from anyone that's having a mental health challenge. And I believe that these are the ways that we start to end the stigma, right? By bringing forth these facts and these myths. We've done it in the past. We will do it year in and year out, because it's so important to really understand that. Because, of course, when we have this kind of information, then it changes the way we look at the world, and it changes the way we interact with each other, with those we love, and even with strangers. At the end of this month, we will be honoring Memorial Day, which is a time to honor those who have given their lives in military service to this country. And in honor of that holiday weekend, CSC will be closed, so we will not be streaming live at the end of this month. And we trust that each and every one of you will honor the weekend, enjoy the weekend in whichever way feels good to you. We are a church that believes in prayer. Yes, yes. We gather together every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Momentum Prayer Call. This is a wonderful opportunity to continue the momentum that we co-create here on Sundays, and it is also a way to start the momentum with intention on your Wednesday morning as you go about your day or as you get ready for your day. It's very easy to join us. You see the phone number and the access code. Just call in before 7 a.m. and wait, and we share a reading and we pray. There's also the opportunity to join via the web if you'd like. You see that information there. Additionally, we record each prayer. So the most recent prayer is always available via the playback number there on your screen. For those of you who are on our mailing list or contemplating joining our mailing list, all of this information is shared in the weekly email every Friday, so you'll have quick and convenient access to it. Again, the playback number, call that number, enter the code and wait, and you can access that prayer 24/7. Now, if you have a prayer request, we encourage you to send in that prayer request to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org. That email is received by Pastor Yolanda, myself, and all of our prayer champions. We hold the entire community and congregation of Celebration Spiritual Center in our hearts and in our minds and in prayer. But we recognize you may have a specific request. You may be submitting that on behalf of someone else. And we are happy to know the truth with you, because we know that prayer works. We know that prayer is effective. We know that prayer is powerful. And we are happy to stand in that knowing with you at any time, through any circumstance or situation. Invite your friends to the live stream. We are looking for those that are looking for us. If you know someone that you think may be into what it is that we're all about, by all means, invite them to join us on Sundays. You can always send them a video of a previous service, a previous sermon, a previous meditation, music, etc. Let them know that CSC is here and what it's all about. There is a place that is affirmative. There is a place that is reminding you of who you truly are. There is a place whose God talk is loving and affirmative, and perspective on God is liberating. And so you can let them know that we exist, and without any proselytizing or becoming an evangelist, just share that bit with them and let them do the rest. As we are in our 10th year, we are highlighting past series that have been powerful and impactful over the years. And so this month we're highlighting this series, God Power, which is from 2018, February or March of 2018. I need to confirm that month. But it's a powerful series talking about the reality of who and what God is, but that there is one power. There's only God power. And that series starts with two powerful sermons, Stop Begging with God and Healing Your God Trauma. I encourage you to check those out. You can go to our YouTube page, our YouTube channel, and you'll see that this series is highlighted for the month. This is exciting. We have new designs in our shop. You can go to our Spreadshirt store and grab the God Looks Good as Me t-shirts. I know this is something that folks have been asking for, and it's wonderful to have these in the store. I look forward to many of you rocking these for the summer. Also, we have added back the Amen, Ashe, and So It Is, Pride, Trans Pride, and Juneteenth design, so you can grab those and get those before we get into the month of June. But yeah, I'm looking for. I haven't got mine yet, but I'm looking forward to rocking my t-shirt.
Get both colors.
Yeah, I'm gonna get both colors. Yeah. So please, by all means, grab the shirt. It can be a wonderful gift idea. There's also other options, mugs and all that good stuff. But we're happy to have this new design in the store. And that concludes our announcements, news, and updates for today, which means we have the opportunity to go within, and we will be led in the meditation experience with Pastor Yolanda.
Yes. It is time for meditation. It is time to experience God for ourselves. This month's affirmative thought is, I am spirit and I am free. And I want to thank all the people that reached out to say that this affirmative thought met them right where they were last week when we began our month's series, our month's meditation experience. And so thank you very much for letting me know that it touched you right where you were, because it touched me right where I was, and right where we can be. In our human experience, we forget that we are spirit. In our human experience, sometimes the burden of whatever we carry feels too much. And we need to be reminded that we are spirit, spiritual beings having a human experience. And where we are is okay, and where we are is loved, and where we are, we can surrender that burden and allow the spirit that animates this body to take center stage. And when it is in front, when it is leading, there is freedom of movement, freedom of action, freedom of thinking. We get to release ourselves from the burden of our mistakes, our past, the worry about our future, and just know that God is right there, that we are animated by the same thing that animates the beauty that is experienced right here in these cherry blossoms, the beauty that is experienced all across the planet. We are one with that beauty. It all comes from the divine. And let us now experience the divine within ourselves. So, go ahead and let's prepare for this inward journey. Let's prepare to do more than just talk about the talk. Let's be prepared to experience God. It's always available. In preparation, let's look around the room and notice where we are. But wherever we are seated upright, in a chair, on our bed, on our sofa. And that's also the gift, that we can be home, and we can be safe, and we can experience God in this moment. As we now know that we are safe, seated upright, aligning the ears over the shoulders, shoulders over hips, creating a nice long line of energy, making it nice and comfortable as the vertebrae stack on top of one another, as they were designed to do. Find your comfort place. Find your safe space. Plant the palms on the tops of the thighs and allow the eyelids to gently close. That easy act, that almost automatic act of closing the eyelids takes us to the beginning threshold of the inward journey. And let's just notice ourselves from the inside. And maybe that self doesn't feel exactly okay today, and that's okay. But there is something deeper that we are headed in the direction of, that we will allow to consume us today. For we are spirit, and we are free. Just notice the breath, and be in gratitude for the breath. We are in no hurry to move the breath. We are just noticing the breath, the energy of life and divinity that flows on the breath. It's always available. It is the animation and the movement of spirit that takes these bodies from mere things to whole things, to holy things, to expressive and joyous things. Beautiful, everyone. And now let's take conscious control, for it is our ability to choose what we think and also to choose how we breathe that lets us know we are more than our bodies. We are spirit, and we are free. Together, let's drop our awareness and our breath deep into the low belly. And on a count of 4, let's inhale, and as we do, expand the low belly. Inhale and expand. Hold it there. Count of 4. And now release whatever burden that you carry. On the exhale, sigh it out. Count to 4. As we empty, we fill up with more. Inhale and expand. Hold it there. And sigh it out. And moving the breath in through the low belly, up through the rib cage, expanding again, sides and front and back. Hold it there. And now release it. Let yourself hear it go. Surrender it with the sigh. In through the low belly, and find a new place that you didn't feel the breath before as you expand the sides and the front and the back. As we create more space, new space for the breath, hold it there. And let it all go, sigh it out. We connect low belly to mid-breath to the top where the lungs reach the heart center. Hold it there on a count of 4. And sigh it out, releasing without collapsing the body, Just letting the breath leave the body. Inhale again through the nose. Hold it there. And sigh it out. Emptying beyond where you thought there is breath, releasing all of that stale air and energy. And now making room as the breath returns in through the nose. Let's take a few rounds of deep, full breath in and out through the nose. And let's slow it down even further. Count of 6. On your own rhythm and your own time, in and out through the nose, with the lips closed. Follow the path of breath in through the nostrils, circulating as we hold, and releasing slightly warmer on the exhale through the nose. Just observe and be in gratitude for the path of breath, for the movement of spirit, and for the freedom of both. We notice how everything slows down, time and space, and we become more present. We become more free. Beautiful, everyone. Let's take that breath, that freedom of expression, and that spirit animating these bodies, and move that awareness into our feet. Wherever our feet have taken us this week, there may be some tension, some holding on. We send the breath there, and we relax the feet. As the toes make contact with the earth, we send the energy from the soles of the feet into Mother Earth. And we are grateful to know that we are grounded and connected. We continue to breathe, and we continue to feel the energy flow across the ankles. Relax the ankles. Energy flows across the shins and the calves. Relax the shins and the calves. In our flexibility, we notice the knees. We notice the ability to bend, to move in the direction of our highest good. But we relax now and feel the spirit that we are. Relax the knees. Energy flows across the thighs, makes its way to the glutes and the hamstrings, and maybe we tense the glutes just slightly. And exhale, releasing the glutes, allowing the thighs and the hamstrings to also feel complete relaxation. Energy gathered at the base of our spine is available to make its way. That Kundalini rises. We open and allow it as the energy flows in and up on the breath. Inhaling, exhaling, and allowing. In and up. Exhale. Allow. There is no spot where God is not. There is no place where spirit cannot occupy. Spirit occupies these bodies, and our freedom is always available. Relax as the energy flows in and up. and up. And out the crown of our heads. As we are grounded to Mother Earth and we are elevated to our highest knowing. Allow this energy that is gathered above us all to connect us all, to send love to our mothers and mother figures, to the ancestors that occupy the feminine energy. We allow it all. We welcome it all. As the energy flows back down through the crown, across the third eye, down the throat, across the shoulders, and lingering there as a comforting touch, we relax the shoulders and let the energy flow down the arms and out the fingertips. From this place of awareness, scan the body again, noticing anywhere that you're holding on, for it is our freedom that we want to experience today. Release what needs to be released and turn the palms up if you need more. Turn the palms down to ground. As we prepare for our silent time, affirm for yourself, I am spirit and I am free. I am spirit and I am free. I am spirit and I am free. Enjoy the freedom of this experience now. With our eyes still closed, we sense our spiritual importance. With our eyes still closed, we let go of all that was bothering this material expression of a body. We let go of all the worry and the doubt and the fear, the insecurity, the unworthiness. And we become the greatness of the God that is within us. As we release the untrue, we welcome that which is true, that we are spirit and we are free. Let's begin now to come back here knowing our spiritual importance, knowing our worthiness, knowing our inherent value to that which created us. And slowly, when you're ready, start to wake the body, bringing back that spiritual significance and magnificence with you. Moving the toes and the fingers, honoring that we have a body and knowing that we are more. Stop the movement. Bring the palms to the tops of the thighs if the palms were turned up. And let's inhale, drawing the breath in and animating the body. Inhale as the shoulders release back and down. We feel our body more, but it is not a burden. It is the vehicle that carries the spirit. Inhale. Exhale. Release the shoulders back and down. Inhale. One more time. Fullest breath that you've ever experienced. Exhale, releasing the shoulders back and down. And bring the palms together at heart center. Lightly touch the thumbs into the sternum. Bowing the chin towards the fingertips. And pausing to notice the opening in the neck and the base of the spine, that energy still flowing. We bring this spiritual awareness back with us. Slowly allow the eyelids to open. Nice, soft gaze. No strain on the eyes. No strain on this experience. Inhale. Raise the chin. With a relaxed gaze, release the breath. Namaste.
Yes, yes, yes. Namaste. Thank you, P.Y.
You're welcome.
Powerful as always. We are connected. We are dropped in. And we remain connected. We bring that awareness. We bring that connection with us out into the world, out into our day, out into our life, anchored. And it feels good. Well, we are in our series this month. It is a short month, but yet a powerful series, Game Changers. And before we get into today's sermon, we're going to hear from Soul 21 with a song that fits right in with today's message. So we'll hear from Soul 21, and then I'll meet you on the other side with today's sermon, Spiritual Power-Ups. I'll see you there.
And so this song is a prayer to be used. Because if God can use anything, I know that God can use me. If God can use anything, I know God can use you. And all that is required is your receptivity to say, here I am, I'm available. Use me. There's a call for love. Everywhere we see out in the world, the injustice, the discrimination, the hatred, all of the foolishness, it's a call for love. And love can only be experienced in, through, and as each and every one of us. So we say yes to God as love to express through us. If you can use anything, you can use me. use.
You can use anything, Lord. You can use me.
I just look back in my mind and I think about all of the different things that have been used to inspire me, to encourage me. So I want to be used in the same way.
Take my hands, Lord, and my feet.
Touch my heart.
Touch my heart, Lord, speak through me.
If you can use
You
anything,
can use anything, Lord. You can use me.
we pause. If you can use anything,
You can use anything, Lord. You can use me.
I make myself available.
Use anything, Lord. You can use me.
I hear the call of love.
Take my hands, Lord, and my feet.
Touch my heart.
Touch my heart, Lord, speak
Oh, you can use
through me. Use
anything.
anything, Lord.
You can use me. We're going to sing that again, and feel free to join in. If you can use anything,
Use anything, Lord. You can use me.
here I am, here I am.
Use anything, Lord. You can use me.
The world needs so much love, so take my hands,
My hands, Lord, and my feet.
touch my heart.
My heart, Lord, speak through me.
You can use.
You can use anything, Lord.
We're going to stay right there. You can use anything.
You can use
Anything.
Lord. You can use me.
I make myself available.
Use anything, Lord. You can use me.
It just requires our yes. Take my hands and my feet.
Take my hands, Lord, and my feet.
Touch my heart.
Touch my heart, Lord, speak through me.
Take my hands.
Take my hands, Lord, and my feet.
Touch my
Touch my
heart.
heart, Lord, speak through me.
All that I
Take
am.
my hands, Lord, and
My
my
gifts,
feet.
my skills, my talents, my abilities. I bring them here right now. Right now.
My heart, Lord, speak.
Take my hands. Take my hands.
Take my
And
hands
my feet.
and my feet.
Touch my heart. Speak through me. I'm bringing all that I am. All that I have. I'm making it available. Oh, take me up. Take my hands.
Take my
And
hands
my feet.
and my feet.
Touch my heart. Oh, take my hands and my feet.
And my feet.
Touch my heart. Take me up. Take me up. Oh, I'm available. Just as I am. Just as I am. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be added. But as I am, I'm available to be used my love, to be used for good, to be used for peace. I make myself available. You can use
Anything, Lord, you can use me.
if you can use.
You can use anything, Lord, you can use me.
I invite you to just consider all of the things, all of the anythings that have been used in your life, all of the anythings that have spoken to you, all of the anythings that have encouraged you.
Lord, you can use.
You can be used in the very same way, in the very same way, in the very same way. Yeah. When you see what's going on in this world, and when it causes you dismay, when it causes you not to feel good, that's the call within you. The call for you as you are right now. Nothing needs to be added. But as you are right now, life is seeking to express through you, to be good through you, to be love through you, to be peace through you, to be a loving word through you, to be an encouraging word through you, to be a demonstration, to be a lighthouse, pointing someone to the way that they too can be healed, that they too can be successful, that they too can change their lives, that they too can change their minds. Anything, yeah. Oh. just as I am. Here I am, just as I am. I make myself available. That's all that life ever asks. That's the only requirement. Is for you to bring yourself as you are and say, use me. If you can use anything, you can use anything. So it is. So it is. So it is.
Oh, my. That was powerful, powerful. Thank you, Soul 21 and the Celebration Band. If you can use anything, Lord, you can use me. I make myself available. And I was just saying to PY, it's interesting because you hear the things I said at the beginning of that song. I'm not even sure what year that was, but of course we see all of the things that are still taking place in our lives and in our world. We know that the call for love is consistent. The call for love is an eternal call. So because love is the message, right? And so I'm grateful and thankful for the vibration of that song and the reminder of that song. Well, hello again. Happy Sunday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are, I know that there is something good happening, and we gather together in that consciousness. So we are in our series, Game Changers. And Game Changers, it's all about what are those spiritual ideas that were game changers for you, right? What are those spiritual ideas that not only when you hear them, but when you apply them and integrate them, become game changers for your life, that you can never return back to your previous state, even if you try to, because you've encountered this spiritual truth. And so we started in week 1 with the game changer, the title, Your God is Too Small. And of course, the game changers were about the reality of who and what God is, our God concept. Who is God? Where is God? That God dwells within us. And if God dwells within us, and it is the I am that I am, then we're never pointing outside of ourselves, looking outside of ourselves. We're never, as I said last week, making deals with God. You wouldn't make deals with something that's outside of you. You would simply be in union, communion, and community with it, knowing that it is operating in, through, and as you. Powerful message last week. I encourage you to check that out if you haven't already checked it out. But we're going to move forward. And as we move forward, what I thought about for this next set of game changers, I thought about video games. And I thought about the fact that video games have always had power-ups, something that allows the character that you are to get better, right? To develop abilities. Sometimes they're time-based abilities. Sometimes they can last as long as you don't run into the enemy. I'm thinking about, the original Super Mario Brothers, right? And so you get the mushroom that makes Mario big, right? And then you get the flower, and now Mario can shoot fireballs, right? But there's also the star, which makes Mario invincible for a period of time. There's also the green mushroom, which is a one-up. It gives you another life. And so we recognize that power-ups are wonderful, power-ups are necessary, and they're what allow you to move through the game with great skill and to get through things that otherwise would be difficult if you were in your original state. And so when I thought about the power-ups in video games, I think that the game changers that I want to share with you today are like spiritual power-ups. Now, here at CSC, you've heard Pastor Yolanda and I say many times that CSC teaches stage 3 and stage 4 living. And what does that mean? Well, we're referring to the stages of spiritual consciousness, which are taught by Reverend Michael Beckwith, that are part of his teaching on the life visioning process. And of course, his work there, I think, is a benefit to the planet and has expanded our wisdom and knowledge. And it's something that has absolutely grounded my understanding and part of who I am as a minister and as a teacher. And so in the 4 stages of spiritual consciousness, stage 3 and stage 4, stage 3 is the through me stage and stage 4 is the as me stage. Okay. And of course, like I said, many of you, if you've been with us a while, you can quote those, right? And the through me stage is likened to the words of Jesus, where we read, "It is not I, but the Father within that does the works or doeth the works." And the as me stage can be likened to just living in an awareness of I am one with God, that there's no longer a sense of separation between you and the divine. And it's a very powerful, mystical state of being. And so understanding, embracing, and integrating stage 3 and 4 of spiritual consciousness to me are like power-ups. Now, you may have also heard me say this, and I actually referenced it in last month's sermon, and I said we're going to get back to this. I wanted to delve with it a little more. There's a spiritual truth that I love to share in this way. Life is not happening to you. Life is not happening for you. Life is happening through you. And I think that in some ways, if you hear that, if you're hearing it for the first time, that may sound controversial, particularly because life is happening for you has been taught and is taught as something that's good and beneficial. We're going to talk about the benefits, but we're going to also talk about why I say that life is not happening for you, but it is actually happening through you. And I believe that this is a game changer. Not only is it a game changer, but the 3 aspects here, life is not happening to you, life is not happening for you, life is happening through you, are actually spiritual power-ups. So let's deal with this first power-up. Life is not happening to you. If you believe and live from a standpoint that life is happening to you, or God is happening to you, or the universe is happening to you, or some other deities are moving you on this chessboard, you have no power and you have no agency in your life. You're living life as a spectator and not a participant. This is then what we would refer to as a victim stage. And now that we have this language in the collective lexicon, it's pop culture, right? Oh, you're being a victim. Or, oh, I don't want to be a victim. Or, I'm not going to say, right? You hear that all the time. And right, people want to avoid being victims without fully understanding what this is talking about. And so I want to give us some other words to think about, because when I say that life is not happening to you, if we think of the word victim and think of some synonyms, what we're talking about is easy target, easy prey, everybody's fool, a sitting duck, or the fall guy, right? And so when I say that life is not happening to you, what I'm saying is that you are not a fool. You're not everybody's fool. You're not the fall guy. The joke is not on you. You are not easy prey to the winds and waves of life, of the tough, bad, and difficult things that can happen in life. And that's good news for someone who has been living in that way, that just sees themselves as a target, right? That sees themselves as easy prey, that sees themselves as everybody's fool or a sitting duck. Now, as I say that, I want to insert a moment of spiritual maturity. Because again, as I say that, this idea of not wanting to be a victim is in our collective consciousness. It's a part of pop culture. You'll hear people talk about it. You'll see, folks that, are spiritual or not spiritual, coaching, self-help, anywhere in the world, you see people constantly talking about this. And really othering the so-called victims, othering the so-called sitting ducks. So first, as we insert a moment of spiritual maturity, first I want to say that we must first understand this idea of life is not happening to you on an individual, personal level, as in your own life. So, and I say that because what tends to happen is immediately folks get this idea of life is not happening to you, and then they want to point that out to everybody else but themselves, right? Also, folks get this idea of life is not happening to you, and they immediately want to go to the worst horrors in the world. They immediately want to apply that to the Holocaust. They immediately want to apply that to the transatlantic slave trade. They immediately want to apply that to any injustice or inequality that we see in the world. Again, a moment of spiritual maturity. The first thing we must do is understand this on an individual, personal level before we could ever possibly, and you still might not, understand it, how it's playing out in someone else's life, and even more so, how it's playing out on a society level, on a community level, on a global level. The only person that can truly come to this understanding about your life is you. Because you think about it, even if I know that someone in truth is not everybody's fool, someone I know in truth is not a sitting duck, I could say that till I turn blue, right? But if they don't accept that to be true, all of my saying and all of my knowing in the world doesn't change that, right? And so this is why it's very important that recognizing that each of us must come to this understanding for ourselves in our own lives. So what does that mean? We should keep our mouths off of other people's lives. Now, naming this stage also should not absolve us from the love, kindness, empathy, and compassion that we must give ourselves when we come to the recognition that we've been believing that we were everybody's fool. When we come to the recognition that we believed that we were just a sitting duck and life was going to take us out. When we were believing that we were easy prey. Right? And then as we're able to give that love, kindness, empathy, care, and concern and compassion to ourselves, then and only then are we able to extend it to others. So that's why then we keep our mouths off of other people's lives. So what's interesting about this idea is and we're going to see this through line throughout these spiritual power-ups, is that if you truly come into an awareness of life is not happening to you, and you come into that awareness for yourself, inevitably, that requires compassion for self, and inevitably, and I'm talking about, when I say come into an understanding, I'm talking about an integration of it, an embodiment of it. It becomes a part of your identity. Then inevitably, you're going to give that same ease, grace, care, compassion, and love to someone else. Again, we're still in our moment of spiritual maturity. So when we say that life is not happening to you, this is not saying that bad things don't happen. That would be delusional. And there are those, unfortunately, that embrace and say that they practice this philosophy of New Thought that try to do that very thing. And of course, then this is where we get into victim shaming and victim blaming. And this is also not saying that the bad things that happen to you are your fault. One of the things I said at the very beginning, I said, if we understand that someone who believes that life is life is happening to them, they believe that then unconsciously that they have no power and they have no agency. And they are living as spectators rather than participants in the game of life. And so this is not saying that anything is their fault, but it's a recognition that these things are happening, and they think or feel 100% powerless in the experience of it. I must also say this does not absolve systems, power structures, governments, societies, etc. of the deliberate and insidious harm that has been done, harm taking away freedoms and freedoms being denied, and all the ways that inequality and injustice has been codified into our system and into our way of life. So when we say life is not happening to you, another way of hearing that is simply saying you have more power than you were taught you had. I want you to hear that again. Another way of saying life is not happening to you is simply saying you have more power than you were taught you have. And that's a game, oh my Lord, that's a game changer. when you think you're powerless and you come into the awareness that you do have power? You come into the awareness that you have more power than you thought you had? When you come into the awareness that you can impact aspects of your life? Of course, this is the Dorothy and the silver slippers, you had it all along moment. That's what we're getting to when we say life is not happening to you. We're saying that there's a power present in, through, and as you that will support you in having a different experience, even in the experience. Again, it's not saying that tough times won't happen. It's not saying that pain won't happen. It's not saying that some level of suffering may not happen in this physical body. It's inevitable, right? In this human form, in this time-space reality. But what it is saying is that in the midst of that, there's something that you can know that gives you power and agency to thrive in the midst of that, thrive through it, and rise above it. And so can you feel the absence of judgment there? You have more power than you were taught you have. Can you feel how it leaves room for the reality of systemic injustice and equality in all its form, both past and present? Can you feel how this doesn't blame folk? And so why is this a power-up? It's a power-up because it's like being told that there are power-ups in the game of life. I talked about it, right? Well, imagine playing a video game and you weren't told that you have these things that can give you an extra life, that you weren't told that you have these things that can make you invisible, that you weren't told that you have these things that can give you a fireball to take out an enemy. You weren't told that you have these things that can make you grow taller. You weren't told that you have these things that can help you fly. Weren't told that you have these things that can help you jump higher, even for a temporary amount of time. And so life is not happening to you is like being told about all of these power-ups, what they are, what they can do, and also witnessing what others that look just like you have been able to do with those power-ups. I'm reminded in this moment, see, I understand at 46 years of age, why my parents gave my sister and I Black History Month flashcards for Christmas. Because what they were doing was they were telling us about the power-up. See, they knew the reality of the game. They knew that raising Black children, they knew that we would face some adversities. They knew that we may be judged by the color of our skin and not the content of our character and not our skills, talents, and abilities and the beauty of our minds. They knew that. But by teaching us about powerful Black people in history who were able to do powerful things in the world, it was like giving us power-ups and showing us what's possible. Life is not happening to you. Yes, there will be things that happen as a result of being Black in this racist country. Absolutely true. But you got some spiritual power-ups. And so that's what fully understanding and embracing life is not happening to you is all about. So let's go to the second power up. Life is not happening for you. Do you remember the first time you heard this idea? This idea that life is happening for you? I know for many people, this was a pivotal moment. It's something that was a game changer to hear life is happening for you. I can chime in and say that as I heard that for the first time and began to embrace that in my life, it changed some things, right? It's what supported me in getting off of the sidelines. It's what supported me in no longer being a spectator of life, but being a full-fledged, power-filled participant. It's the thing that moved me out of thinking and believing that I was everybody's fool or that I was an easy target or easy prey. Many people learn this as a way to interact with something that at face value seems unwanted. You may have been taught to ask, how is this happening for me? Rather than asking, why is this happening to me? This is again moving us out of the life is happening to me frame of reference. But as someone who is starting to engage with the reality that they have power-ups, someone that is starting to engage with the reality that they have spiritual power, engage with the reality that they have agency in their life, that they are no longer easy prey or everybody's fool or the fall guy. They were taught to ask the question, how is this happening for me? And again, this has freed many people, including myself, but it also has its limits. So first, let's state the obvious. I hope this is obvious. This is not something that someone should be asking while suffering domestic violence or abuse or being in a toxic situation. But unfortunately, it is being applied in this way by many. Unfortunately, it is even being taught to many to apply it in this way. Let's state the obvious. This is not something that someone should solely ask in lieu of seeking proper medical attention. I mean, we're talking about mental health awareness this month, right? And you're in the moment of crisis or you're experiencing depression, and then you're asking the question, how is this happening for me? No, that is cruel and unusual punishment. And I want to highlight something. Not only is it cruel and unusual punishment, but it's also rooted in superstition. And I want to highlight something that Ernest Holmes writes, something that I don't think gets talked about enough. In Living the Science of Mind, there's a chapter entitled The Doctor, the Psychologist, and the Metaphysician. And Ernest Holmes writes this. It cannot be more specific. In the early days of spiritual therapeutics, it was believed that a practitioner could not successfully treat patients if they were being attended by a physician, or if they were using material methods for relief. Now we know this was based on superstition. So there was a time, and it's still expressed, unfortunately, within many New Thought circles, this idea that you could not use these spiritual tools that we practice, affirmative prayer, meditation, visioning, visualization, you name them, right? You couldn't use spiritual mind treatment and affirmative prayer if you were also seeking the attention of a physician or using other material methods. And again, he says, now we know that this was based on superstition. He goes on. There is also an added comfort in the mind of the patient when he knows that he is having proper physical care, proper diet, and the right medical and surgical attention when needed. Their mind is in a more composed state, and this enables the mental practitioner to do effective work. It is easier to work for one whose mental attitude is poised than for one whose thought is distraught. Let us do all that we can to remove superstition, intolerance, and bigotry, which are also the result of ignorance. I love that we have this documented. I love that we have these words from Ernest Holmes because it makes it clear that, and of course, PY and I have been saying this year in and year out, right? It's not an either or, right? You have your pastors, you have your doctors, you have your spiritual practices, you have your therapists, and it all works together. But here the other thing that he's saying, we recognize that when you have the comfort, whatever that looks like, physical care, proper diet, right medical and surgical attention when necessary, that actually calms you so that you can then be receptive to plant the spiritual idea that will then support you in having the healing experience that you want. But this idea of life is happening for me when it's misused, and the way that it's misused and the way that it's abused will have somebody only asking that question and like, oh, well, no, this is for me. This is for me. I'm going to figure this out. I'm not a victim of this experience. And so all I have to do is just understand how it's for me and everything will work out. I'm not calling the doctor. I'm not going to a therapist. I'm not taking that Tylenol. Let us do all that we can to remove superstition, intolerance, bigotry, which are the result of ignorance. Interestingly enough, the for me way of thinking has its benefits. Underneath it, as I said earlier, is the recognition of power and agency. It's the beginning stages of it. Underneath it is a desire to not be an easy target or a fall guy in life. But this also represents where we learn to manifest. Life is for me, so I can have anything I want. Life is for me, so I can be anything that I want. Life is for me, so I can do anything that I want. All of this is true, but the spiritually immature practice this without love, without compassion, and without empathy for self and others. This is why we get the disgusting expression of capitalism in the world. I can be anything, I can do anything, I can have anything. The American dream, right? But never stopping to think about how this impacts someone else. Never stopping to think about how the desire to be, do, and have everything has also created deep wells of inequality, has also created systems that the only way one group of people or one country many times can be, do, or have anything is to have sweatshops. Right? To have our goods made somewhere else cheaply and then sold at a much higher percentage. This for me perspective can lead some to think also, this is the unjust use of prosperity teaching or the prosperity gospel, right? The for me perspective can lead some to think that God is for them and not for others, that God is for a chosen people and not for others. God is for us who think and act this way and speak and teach this way, but God ain't over there in what they're doing. The other thing is that then when something doesn't work out the way it was supposed to, because you've been living in this life is for me consciousness, and you've been attracting all these things and all this wonderful stuff is happening into your life. But then something shows up, an illness shows up, something shows up, the transition of a loved one, something shows up with some kind of loss or something that leads to suffering, and or things don't work out the way they did before, and it leads to confusion, it leads to doubt, it leads to shame, and it even leads to delusion. Because if you don't start to live in the shame, guilt, and doubt, then you try to double down on, no, this is for me, no, this is for me, no, this is for me. Meanwhile, many times mentally and other times physically, you're starting to wither away because you won't seek the support that is needed. At the extreme end, this shame and guilt will also be projected out towards others. It's the quintessential expression of bootstrap thinking and bootstrap shaming. You should be able to, pull yourself up by your bootstrap. You should be able to get yourself out of it. You should be able to heal yourself. What's wrong with you? I love what Reverend Daniel Lee Morgan says, that we must pull ourselves up by our consciousness, not our bootstraps. And these spiritual power-ups are mental power-ups, right? It's about an understanding. It's about an embodiment and an integration of these knowings, these truths that then create a new experience in our lives. Life is not happening to you. Life is not happening for you. Life is happening through you. I've read this passage many times. I will probably read it many more times before I leave this planet. When Ernest Holmes writes in The Science of Mind under the heading, Spirit works for us by working through us, this very thing. The thing then works for us by working through us and is us always. It cannot work for us in any other way. It spreads itself over the whole universe and shouts at us from every angle. But it can become power to us only when we recognize it as power. That's why that first part is important about life is not happening to you. And even the game changers of last week, understanding who and what God is and how God works. We have to recognize it as power. Therefore, our belief sets the limits to our demonstration of a principle which of itself is without limit. It is ready to fill everything because it is infinite. So it is not a question of its willingness nor its ability. It is entirely a question of our own receptivity. And that's kind of how the power-ups work in the video game. You could literally skip the power-ups. right? The way power-ups work in video games, it's not like we're going to make sure that they absolutely get this tool, or we're going to make sure that they absolutely get this power-up, or they get this new superpower. You have to seek it out. Sometimes you might have to jump and get it and avert other enemies just to get that power-up. Right? You have to deliberately go a certain way, or you have to deliberately go to a hidden spot to get the power-up. Right? And so it's entirely a question of our own receptivity. I was thinking about it, Holmes, right? FUBU, we have the designer FUBU for us, by us, right? Well, this is FUTU, for us, through us, but it's not just for us, through us, it goes further. Because Holmes writes, the thing then works for us by working through us and is us, always. For us, through us, is us. You can affirm it right now. For me, through me, is me. And so now we get to stage 3 and 4, teaching. Stage 3, through me. It is not the Father. It is not I, but the Father within that does the work. Stage 4, as me. I am one with all that is. This is the most powerful power-up in the game of life, but unlike a video game, this is easily accessible. Unlike a video game, this power-up is present everywhere at all times. This power-up is an acknowledgement that you have power and agency, and it's an acknowledgement of the source of all power, and an acknowledgement of the uninterrupted, fully reliable, fully available, 24/7, inexhaustible nature of that power. And it's interesting because those words that we hear, it is not the Father, not I, but the Father within, that we hear in the mouth of Jesus, that comes from the Gospel according to John. And John is the mystical text of the 4 canonized Gospels. Of course, the Gnostic texts get even more mystical when you talk about the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene and on and on. But it's interesting, these words are found in the Gospel of John, which is very mystical, and it echoes ancient traditions. You can find some of the words that we find in John, you can find them mirrored in ancient Sanskrit, right? Which of course predates the life of Jesus, predates anything that would have been written that we have in the canonized scripture. And the Gospel according to John starts this way, and I'm reading it in a specific way for you so you can hear it differently. In the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. It was in the beginning with God. All things were made through it, and without it was not anything made that was made. In it was life, and the life was the light of all people. Now, if you're familiar with that scripture, you're familiar that logos is translated into English as word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. But unfortunately, our English word of word very poorly gives us an indication of what it's all about, because, of course, people think of that and use that word as word, thinking about the scripture. And this is even what is used to support the idea of inerrancy of the scripture, that the word was always there. And so now we have the word here. And then, of course, there's the idea that Jesus alone is the living word, or the sole embodiment of the power of the canonized scriptures. But logos, the Greek idea of logos, first of all, it was pointing to a mystical understanding. It was pointing to an esoteric understanding. And it was used as a clue for those communities that I talked about last month, right? The Essenes and the Therapeutae, those who were the followers of the way. When they heard logos, they knew what was being talked about. Logos is a better definition, is the idea of ideas. It's like the idea of ideas emerging out of the oneness of God, and it's like a word or thought. And I love this because this absolutely parallels Hindu teaching, right? It absolutely parallels even more ancient teachings. It's one of the things that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi teaches about when he talks about how and why transcendental meditation works, and what happens when you're dropping in. You're dropping into that field. The unified field is the term that's used in transcendental meditation and the teaching. It's talking about the logos, the idea of ideas, the place from which everything emerges. right? And it emerges out of oneness, which means it never exhausts itself. It just comes out of it and yet still remains complete and remains whole. And so it's like a word, it's like a thought, but it's not to say it's the word as we think about the written word or even the spoken word is to diminish what it is. And so this is the text then that we hear the words in the mouth of Jesus, this mystical idea then of where he writes in John, or he says in John 5, the Son can do nothing of his own, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, the Son does likewise. This was a through me statement and an as me statement. It's actually written there in the Gospel of John as in the narrative that this is one of the reasons why many of the listeners had issues with Jesus, because it's like you're equating yourself with the all that is. But this was the mystical understanding of I am one with the all that is. This was the mystical understanding of you are one with the all that is, and it is operating through you. Then in John 14, we have a similar thing. The words that I say to you, I do not speak on my own, but the Father who dwells in me does his works. And it's important when you start to make this link, when you understand that the foundation of this text was saying that in the beginning was the idea of ideas, and nothing comes into being except through the idea of the ideas. Not anything that was made that did not come from the idea of ideas. It was life, and the life was the light of all people. In the former translations, you'll read all men. A proper translation would be all people. And we want to be very deliberate and clear about that. So then, if we understand then that stage 3 and 4 living and thinking and being is about tapping into this reality of through me and as me, one of the things that I find interesting about stage 3 and 4 living is that these spiritual power-ups, living in this awareness, naturally bring forth other spiritual qualities that then make life better for all. First for yourself, but then for all. Because once you come into the awareness and the understanding, and this is why we have this in the ministry and the teaching of Jesus of Nazareth and Jesus the Christ and so many others, love then becomes an action. Because God is love, right? So love itself, if love is operating through me, if I am one with love, then I begin to act from love. I begin to act as love. I begin to allow love to act in, through, and as me. And love shows up in ways that have never then been expressed before on an individual, community, and societal level. It reminds me of what Dr. Martin Luther King writes in Where Do We Go From Here, when he talks about power and love in a way that we've never heard power and love and justice spoken about before, where he writes power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love. And so, see, this is why I was specific earlier when we talked about how the victim shaming and the victim blaming, and then also the absolving of the injustices in the world are incorrect, rooted in spiritual immaturity, rooted in ignorance, and highly problematic. Right? We can't just live there. It has a moment. It has a need, right? To get us to understanding that we have power and agency, to get us off of the sidelines and not being a spectator. All of that is true. But ultimately, if you just park there, if you just set up shop there and just live life through that lens, inevitably, you're going to have to ignore the injustices and the inequality in the world. And that's exactly what happens amongst many people within our New Thought community. And so when we hear this idea that power is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice is love correcting everything that stands against, justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love, we now see that from this through me and as me place, we have the opportunity to actually change the narrative and change the experience for ourselves and for our world. When we use the spiritual power up, we know that we don't know. What do I mean by that? See, we're slow to tell folks then what they need to be doing, and instead we start to listen. If life is happening through me and as me, I slow down. That's why I said earlier, we don't put our mouths on other people's lives. The great gospel group, the Williams brothers, sang it clearly. Sweep around your own front door before you try to sweep around mine. Yes, yes, somebody. And this is then the embodiment of something that Pastor Yolanda and I are always bringing back to you time and time again. It's in A Course in Miracles. Ironically, many people seem to overlook it and definitely aren't embodying it because, unfortunately, A Course in Miracles is used as a tool of shame and blame and guilt and delusion and not acknowledging what's happening in the world, all that stuff. But in Lesson 71, which is only God's plan for salvation will work, which first of all is a statement of surrender, right? It's the understanding that, oh, wait, if God is operating through me and as me, I want that plan. We could say it another way. Only love's plan for salvation will work. But within that lesson, we get the thing, which again, is one of those things that you'll hear us say all the time, which is why we say we teach stage 3 and 4 living. Pray this prayer. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say and to whom? So when you understand that life is happening through you and as you, again, it slows you down to pray this prayer, to recognize that there's something great and powerful that is expressing through me at as all times. And I have this opportunity as Ernest Holmes, I read it as Ernest Holmes states, it is entirely a question of our own receptivity. I have the opportunity to be fully receptive or more receptive to the power and expression of love, as love. And so love, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom? Cannot count how many times we've had conversations of folk coming to us with a question. Well, what do you say when a person is going through da-da-da? Or what do you do when you see someone's going, down a path that's going to harm? We bring you right back to this simple prayer. Because generally speaking, when you're asking the question, what do I do when I see somebody's doing X, Y, Z? You're outside of the through me and as me stage, right? Okay, your eyes show you something. Or in the song, I talked about this idea, right? The call for love, whatever's going on. It's a call for love. So if you see something, that's the first piece. And again, this is why I say it automatically starts to develop these spiritual qualities. If I see something, it ain't time for me to say something. That's only out here in the world if you see something that might be a bomb threat, right? But if you see something, say something, it doesn't work in the spiritual context because you don't have all the information. That's also why I said, and when you have the spiritual power up, we know that we don't know. That's also why I said in the beginning, as you understand that you are not a victim of your world, and you start to give yourself that compassion, you're going to learn to give that same compassion to someone else. I could be right. I could know exactly what they're supposed to do, but I have enough wisdom and knowledge to slow down and to pray this prayer. Spirit, love, God, source. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say and to whom? And what's the other thing that PY and I say all the time? A lot of times, the reply is nothing. A lot of times, the reply is hush. A lot of times, the reply is stay in your business. A lot of times, the reply is sweep around your own front door. And then you can see clearly what it is that I want to express in, through, and as you. I showed you that so you could see yourself. Lord have mercy. In closing, like popular video games, we have spiritual power-ups. Each of them have a use and a purpose. Each of them gets us further in the game, but some have their limits. Life is not happening to you. Yes, we need to understand that because we need to come into the understanding and awareness that we have power, we have agency. But we must acknowledge how this has been used to cause further harm, self-harm, and to harm others. Life is not happening for you. Left unchecked, this can lead to narcissistic behavior, greed, and gluttony. Left unchecked, this can lead an individual into thinking that they should remain in an abusive, toxic environment or experience. Left unchecked, it creates separation and otherness because God is for me and for us. But not for those people who believe differently, not for those people who pray differently, not for those people who don't seem to believe or pray about anything. Life is happening through you. From this vantage point, we are no longer easy prey. And from this vantage point, we are not everybody's fool. We're not a target or the fall guy. From this vantage point, we have the ultimate support. From this vantage point, we cultivate the spiritual faculties which allow us to impact life for the better at the individual, the community, and the societal level. And I was reminded of the great prayer by St. Francis of Assisi, that prayer, make me an instrument of your peace or of thy peace. Now, from this awareness, understanding as me and through me, as St. Francis of Assisi was asking God to be this through him, understanding the truth is that life is happening through us and for us and as us. Understanding this truth, then we no longer ask, but we affirm with our spiritual power up. We say this now without ego, without being self-centered. I am an instrument of God's peace. Where there is hatred, I am love. Where there is injury, I forgive. Where there is doubt, I am faith. Where there is despair, I am hope. Where there is darkness, I am light. And where there is sadness, I am joy. Unlike St. Francis, we do not ask to be or become these things. We know that we are one with God and all things flow through us. When we surrender and allow, when we pray the miracle worker's prayer, when we sing the song, if you can use anything, Lord, you can use me. We make ourselves available. And as we are living this life, the call for love is constant. Whatever you feel when you see that thing that is uncomfortable, disheartening, heartbreaking, know that it is an opportunity. Spirit within you is seeking to express. Love within you is seeking to express right where you are. Start at your individual level. Get it for yourself. Understand it for yourself fully. Because only then will you be able to hold and have the compassion, empathy, love, and kindness and care and grace that's necessary to then even begin to support someone else. You have spiritual power-ups. They're game changers. Let's use them. And to this truth I say, amen, ashe, and so it is.
Ah, yes, yes. This series is the gift that keeps on giving. Did you know that you had that much power and ability? Did you know that even in all the power and the ability that you have, there is more, and you can surrender and allow that to come through you? The agency over your life is what we're talking about. And that agency is just not about going out there doing things. It's about speaking up for what you need. It's about honoring who you really are. Yes, yes. It's about taking the break when you need the break. It's about loving yourself through all of those situations that feel challenging.
Yeah.
Because guess what? God is loving you through all of those situations that feel challenging. And so when we just sit back and listen and allow life to support us, it will. And that is great power. That is great agency. And that's what we are here to understand and support you in experiencing. These are some game changers.
Yes,
They have been in my life and PG's life and so many people's lives. And we hope and we trust that if you haven't quite grasped it all, you'll come back to this message and let it sink in a little deeper so that you will not only hear it, but embody it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, PG.
Yes, thank you. Well, as you can see, it is time for giving, and this information has been shared throughout the stream. It's very easy to give to CSC. Just go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give, or you can text your dollar amount to 347-744-9500. There's a $10 minimum to text to give. What is most important? That you identify and name and know what your joy number is. And that joy number can change week to week, month to month, year to year. Fine. Know what it is. Know that amount that you can give without hesitation, without any worry, without any fear, without trying to, calculate and figure out where you're going to go without on this end so you can give on the other, all of that kind of stuff. That energy just doesn't work. Because again, what we recognize for so long in so many circles, giving was taught about the amount sometimes, or even, and the amount was about making a sacrifice. Oh, give a large amount, make a sacrifice to God, and God will bless you in the same measure. But it's not about the amount. And this is why the planting metaphor is really just the best, right? Any seed that you plant will grow. But what we recognize is what the seed actually is the consciousness behind it, right? And so if there's fear, if there's shame, if there's guilt, if there's worry behind your giving, no matter what the amount is, then that's really what you're planting, right? And I think that's, one of the things, that's where New Thought is unique in understanding that it's the thought behind the action that creates the action, right? And so when we get our thinking right, it then empowers our actions to then have the experience that we want. Give what feels good. And so when you give what feels good, then you can affirm, as we affirm always, all the money that I use.
All the money that I use.
Returns to me multiplied.
Returns to me multiplied.
In a never-ending cycle.
In a never-ending cycle.
Of increase.
Of increase.
And enjoyment.
And enjoyment.
To that we say amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
So it is.
And so it is. Well, we are at the conclusion of the weekend service today. It has been awesome. I always love to affirm that we will leave here differently than when we came in, and I believe, indeed, we will leave here differently. We will leave here empowered. We will leave here with our heads held high. We will leave here knowing that we have the capacity and capabilities to thrive, and we have the support, physical support, spiritual support, to do that very same thing. We trust that each and every one of you will enjoy your day. To all the moms and grandmas and mother figures out there, we trust that you will enjoy your day and be loved on and supported. Shout out to all of you. And no matter what you have going on today, I hope that everyone will enjoy their day and continue to prepare for the week and have an awesome, empowered week. We love you much, and we look forward to gathering together with you. For those that will be on the Wednesday morning prayer call, we look forward to connecting then. And if we do not connect on Wednesday, then we will all gather together as one family on Sunday for the weekend service. We look forward to it. Y'all be well. Bye for now.
Bye for now.